The whirring of the Kronos engine filled the air, a mechanical symphony that seemed to echo through the very fabric of time itself. Each gear turning, each part moving in perfect harmony, creating a sound that was both mesmerizing and intimidating. It was a symphony of temporal distortion, a reminder of the delicate balance we were about to disrupt. The digital waves and glitches danced before my eyes, a visual representation of the chaos we were about to dive into. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the facility. The quiet was almost deafening, broken only by the rhythmic thumping of my own heartbeat. I could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on me, each beat a reminder of the stakes. My mission, to prevent the cataclysm, a war that had ravaged the world, leaving only ashes and echoes. The once vibrant cities now lay in ruins, a stark reminder of what was at stake. The war-torn landscape was a testament to the devastation that had been wrought and the future that awaited if we failed. Professor Eldridge, his face etched with worry lines deeper than time itself, gripped my shoulder. His eyes, filled with a mixture of hope and fear, bore into mine. He had been my mentor, my guide through the complexities of time travel, and now he was placing the fate of humanity in my hands. "Remember, Lieutenant, you are our only hope," he said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The weight of his words settled over me, a heavy mantle of responsibility that I could not shrug off. I nodded, determination hardening my resolve. "Your target is General Volkov, the architect of the cataclysm," he continued. Volkov, a name that had become synonymous with destruction and chaos. The man who had orchestrated the downfall of civilization, and the one I had to stop at all costs. "Stop him, and you save humanity," Eldridge said, his voice filled with a desperate hope. The enormity of the task ahead was daunting, but I knew that failure was not an option. The future of humanity depended on my success. He handed me a temporal beacon, its cold metal a stark contrast to the warmth of my skin. The device was sleek, its surface smooth and unyielding. It was a tool, a lifeline, and the key to navigating the treacherous waters of time. "This will guide you to the temporal coordinates," he explained. The device lit up, displaying a series of coordinates that would lead me to the critical moment in time. It was a beacon of hope in the darkness, a guide through the unknown. "Good luck, Lieutenant. The fate of humanity rests on your shoulders," Eldridge said, his voice filled with a solemn finality. We shared a brief, supportive handshake, a silent promise that I would do everything in my power to succeed. I stepped into the Kronos chamber, the air thick with the ozone tang of temporal displacement. The room was bathed in a blue light, the hum of the machinery a constant reminder of the power at my fingertips. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the journey ahead. The world dissolved around me in a kaleidoscope of colours, my stomach churning with the disorientation of time travel. The sensation was overwhelming, a dizzying array of sights and sounds that left me breathless. But I knew that on the other side of this journey, a mission awaited, a mission that would determine the fate of the world. I materialized in a bustling marketplace, the air thick with the scent of spices and sweat. Stalls overflowed with exotic fruits and handcrafted trinkets. The temporal beacon pulsed warmly in my hand, guiding me towards my target. My heart pounded in my chest, a drum against my ribs. I pushed through the crowd, my hand hovering over the energy pistol concealed beneath my jacket. My target, a young man with piercing blue eyes and a military bearing, arguing with a fruit vendor. This was General Volkov. He seemed so ordinary. Doubt gnawed at me. Could this unassuming young man truly be the architect of global annihilation? My finger twitched on the trigger. I decided to observe Volkov, to understand him before taking irreversible action. Days turned into weeks, my doubts growing with each passing hour. I saw him laugh with friends, comfort a crying child, mourn at a funeral. He was a man of contradictions, capable of both great kindness and terrible rage. Then came the news report, delivered with a chilling matter-of-factness. A terrorist attack, a nation on high alert, retaliation threatened. Volkov, his eyes hardened with grief and fury, was at the forefront. The cataclysm had begun. Panic seized me. My inaction, my hesitation, had only accelerated the very event I was sent to prevent. The temporal beacon pulsed with an ominous red light, a constant reminder of my failure. I had to act, to correct my mistake. I tracked down Volkov, determined to stop him, to reason with him. But as I approached him, a bomb detonated nearby, throwing me back with bruising force. The world dissolved into chaos, screams piercing the air as smoke billowed from the wreckage. When I regained my senses, the world had shifted. Gone was the bustling city, replaced by a desolate wasteland. The air reeked of ash and decay, the sky a perpetual twilight of smoke and dust. This wasn't the world I remembered, not anymore. My interference had warped the timeline, creating a dystopian nightmare. Despair threatened to consume me. What had I done? Section 5. A glimmer of hope extinguished. Years bled into one another, each one more harrowing than the last. The world had become a shadow of its former self, a desolate wasteland where hope was a rare commodity. The once vibrant cities were now silent, their streets empty and their buildings crumbling. Nature had begun to reclaim what was left, but even the greenery seemed muted, as if it too had lost the will to thrive. I wandered the ravaged landscape, a ghost haunting the ruins of a lost world. Each step I took echoed with the memories of a time long gone, a time when life was abundant and the future seemed bright. Now, I was just a solitary figure, moving through the remnants of civilization, searching for something, anything, that could bring meaning to my existence. The temporal beacon, my only companion, pulsed with a faint, erratic rhythm, offering no guidance, only a mocking reminder of my failure. It was supposed to be our salvation, a beacon of hope that would lead us to a better future. Instead, it had become a symbol of our downfall, a constant reminder of the mistakes we had made and the price we were now paying. Then, one day, I stumbled upon a hidden bunker, a flicker of humanity in the desolate wasteland. It was almost hidden from view, its entrance covered by debris and overgrown with weeds. But there it was, a small glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak world. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I should enter, but curiosity and desperation drove me forward. Inside, a group of survivors huddled together, clinging to life and hope. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes hollow, but there was a spark of determination in their gaze. They had managed to survive against all odds, finding solace in each other's company and holding on to the belief that one day things would get better. Among them, frail but alive, was Professor Eldridge. His once sharp features were now softened by age and hardship, but his eyes still held a glimmer of the brilliance that had made him a renowned scientist. He had been a beacon of knowledge and hope in the old world, and seeing him here in this dark and dismal place was both a comfort and a sorrow. He recognized me instantly, his eyes widening in shock. "Lieutenant, you're alive. But how? And why is the world—" His voice trailed off, filled with a mixture of disbelief and sorrow. It was clear that he had many questions, and I had few answers to give. "Lieutenant, you're alive. But how? And why is the world—" His voice trailed off, filled with a mixture of disbelief and sorrow. It was clear that he had many questions, and I had few answers to give. We stood there, locked in a moment of shared grief and confusion, the weight of the past pressing down on us. Before he could finish, a squadron of soldiers stormed the bunker, their faces hidden behind gas masks. The air was filled with the sound of heavy boots and the clatter of weapons, a stark reminder of the world we now lived in. These soldiers were not here to save us. They were here to enforce the new order, to crush any remaining sparks of resistance. They were Volkov's men, hardened by years of war, their humanity extinguished. Their eyes were cold and unfeeling, their movements precise and mechanical. They had become instruments of destruction, carrying out their orders without question or hesitation. In their presence, hope seemed like a distant memory, a fleeting dream that had long since faded away. Section 6. Face to face with fate. I was dragged before Volkov, his face now a mask of cold fury, his eyes burning with a terrible light. The room was dimly lit, shadows dancing on the walls, adding to the tension that hung thick in the air. His eyes burning with a terrible light, they seemed to pierce through my very soul, searching for any sign of weakness. I could feel the weight of his gaze, a palpable force pressing down on me. He had aged, hardened by years of war, each scar on his face telling a story of battles fought and lost. The lines etched into his skin were like a map of his suffering, a testament to the relentless passage of time. But his gaze still held a flicker of the young man I had encountered in the marketplace. That brief moment of recognition was like a ghost from the past, haunting us both in this grim present. "You!" he spat, his voice hoarse with anger, reverberating through the room like a thunderclap. "You've been a thorn in my side for far too long. Do you have any idea what you've done?" His words were like daggers, each one aimed to wound, to make me feel the weight of my actions. I struggled to find my voice, the weight of his accusations bearing down on me. "I was sent to stop you," I croaked, my voice raw from disuse, "to prevent the cataclysm." Volkov let out a humorless laugh that echoed through the desolate chamber. "Stop me. You were the catalyst," he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "The spark that ignited the inferno. Your interference twisted everything, made it all inevitable." His words hung in the air, a grim reminder of the unintended consequences of my actions. As the reality of his words sank in, I felt a cold dread settle in my bones. The weight of my mission, the gravity of my failure, it all came crashing down on me in that moment. Section 7. The Crushing Truth. He threw a data crystal at my feet. "This is your mission briefing, Lieutenant. Or rather, what's left of it after your little jaunt through time." I picked up the crystal, my hands trembling. The data shimmered into existence before my eyes, each word a hammer blow to my soul. My mission wasn't to prevent the cataclysm, but to ensure it. I was a pawn, a tool to be used and discarded, all in the name of some greater good I couldn't comprehend. The world spun around me, the weight of my actions crushing me. I had destroyed the very world I had sworn to protect, all because of a lie, a manipulation I was too blind to see. Section 8. Embracing the inevitable. I looked at Volkov, his face a mirror of the pain and rage that consumed me. He wasn't a monster, not really. He was a product of his circumstances, moulded by the fires of war into a weapon of terrifying efficiency, and I, the supposed saviour, was the one who had set him on this path. The temporal beacon pulsed faintly in my pocket, a silent, mocking reminder of my role in this tragedy. There was no changing the past, no escaping the consequences of my actions. The cataclysm was inevitable, and I, the unwitting architect of this apocalypse, was destined to witness its fiery crescendo. Section 9. Architect of Armageddon. With a heavy heart and a soul drenched in the ashes of a world lost, I made my choice. I would play my part, however abhorrent, in this grand, tragic opera of destruction. I would ensure the cataclysm unfolded as intended. For even in this twisted timeline, there was a perverse order, a purpose I could not yet grasp. The temporal beacon pulsed one last time, a final mournful beat before falling silent. I was no longer a time traveller, a soldier, a saviour. I was a harbinger of oblivion, a midwife to the apocalypse. And as the world burned around me, I found a chilling solace in the inevitability of it all.